Welcome delegates, chairs, directors, and most esteemed guests to the 16th Annual UNIS MUN Conference. I'm Annie Zhang, Secretary General.
And I am David Lee, President of the General Assembly. Before anything else, we would like to first recognize two birthdays in the room. Both are from UNIS MUN directors. Can we please have Ms. Zhang and Mr. Zahara stand up, and we will all sing happy birthday for them. 3, 2, 1.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Mr. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Next, we'll have the head of admin, Ivan Vo, and deputy admin, Natsuki Mori, come up on stage and inform us about the expectations and protocols during the conference with a specific focus on the concept of sustainability.
Hi everyone, my name is Ivan Vo. As they've said, I'm the head admin for your UNIS MUN conference. My deputy seems to be missing, but that's fine. I'll just go over her part. So there are three main things that I want to talk to you guys about. The first being the emergency procedures so that all of you guys are safe during an emergency. The only thing that we'll be covering is the, in case of a fire, please head to the turf field, which is behind the canteen where you guys ate. The second thing that we're going to be talking about is the general expectations expected from you guys during the conference and during the theater and during performances. So please, during the performances, please remain quiet and clap when appropriate. And in between performances, you may talk. As well as during the conference, please listen to your admins when we're trying to get you guys from one place to another, because there's a general schedule that we're trying to stay on top of. The third thing that I'd like to talk about is our sustainability goals and why we've done certain things the way that we have. So, for example, with our tote bag that we gave you guys this morning, there came three things. Your notebook, a water bottle, and then the bag itself. So our idea with this tote bag is so that to reduce plastic waste, right? We want to make sure that everyone is using this when necessary. And if you don't plan on using it, we would greatly appreciate it if you pass it on to someone who you know will. The second thing that we want to, second thing is the water bottle. Please, during the conference, to reduce the plastic waste as well as paper cups, we would like you to use your water bottles for water. And then moving on, we have the notebooks. So the way that we decided to do note cards this year was to have everyone use the paper from their notebooks. The reason why is because in the past we've had schools either bring their own paper or we've printed out paper, and much of this paper is wasted, as once it's done being used, we just tend to throw it away. So in the case of having a notebook, you can tear out a piece of paper and you can still use the rest of the notebook later. Next up, we have the musical performances from the orchestra and the choir team.
Thank you, Music Ensemble, for such a wonderful performance. At this conference, we'll be discussing the theme of what can we do to bring balance to the growing asymmetries of power. The current Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, remarked, "We live in a complex world. The United Nations cannot succeed alone. Partnership must continue to be at the heart of our strategy. We should have the humility to acknowledge the essential role of other actors while maintaining full awareness of our unique convening power." This quote holds significance in the world that we're currently living in, as many issues root from various power asymmetries between individuals and groups.
As leaders of this conference, we believe that Model United Nations is not just a simulation or a mimic of how the United Nations functions. We see it as a forum where youth involvement actually happens. And as students, we have the opportunity called Model United Nations, where we can discourse on various global issues. Let's all remember that our future is dependent on us, the youth. By being engaged in this opportunity, we hope that everyone reminds themselves that as young and passionate leaders, we can take actions, make changes, and provide the same opportunities we have for the future generations. With that being said, we will now welcome all the schools joining us for this conference. We are more than delighted to host 16 schools joining us from all around the world. Clapping is certainly in order for every school. Please welcome American International School, Vietnam.
American Community School in Amman.
Grant International School, Manila.
British International School, Hanoi.
Concordia International School, Hanoi.
Gyeonggi Suwon International School.
Hanoi International School.
International School of Ho Chi Minh City.
Nguyen Tat Thang Lower and Upper Secondary School.
Lycée Francais Alexander Yersin.
Reigate Grammar School, Vietnam.
Seoul Foreign School.
Seoul International School.
Singapore International School, Gamuda.
St. Paul American School, Hanoi.
And last but not least, the United Nations International School of Hanoi. We have more than 350 MUNers participating in this conference, including delegates, chairs, admins, the media team, and middle school students joining on Saturday. We have 11 committees and councils, and a total of 35 topics ready to be debated on.
To welcome all MUNers to our school and to the conference, our head of school, Ms. Jane McGee, will be giving her welcoming remarks. Please welcome her to the stage.
Good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you here today in person for the first time in a very long time. We are pleased to be your hosts while you spend some time on our campus here at UNIS Hanoi and also in Hanoi. This year's conference, as you just heard, includes more than 232 visiting students as part of the conference, together with our own UNIS Hanoi students. Over the next few days, you will have the opportunity to engage in robust dialogue and debate around the theme of this year's conference: what can we do to bring balance to the growing asymmetries of power? Our hope for you is that you'll be intellectually challenged as you grapple with these issues that governments around the world are facing each and every day, and that you will also demonstrate the skills of diplomacy, critical thinking, problem solving, as you work collaboratively as representatives of the member states of the United Nations. We are all here to work together to make the world a better place. Our hope as well for this event is that you get to meet people, students, your colleagues and peers from around the world, and that the friendships that you form over the course of the coming days will last beyond our conference here. Have fun, dialogue, debate, learn and grow, and know that you are making a difference already as young people today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGee, for your welcoming speech. Next in our program, we have a dance performance prepared by 5 high school student dancers: Catherine Kim, Jian Kang, the delegate in the Security Council, Miyu Mizuno and Tam Nguyen, both admins, and Annie Zhang, our Secretary General. Please give them an encouraging round of applause.
Do I have your attention? 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 Do I have your attention?
Is you taking notes?
3, 2, 1.
Blackpink in your area. How you like that? You gon' like that? Da 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 da. How you like that? Bada bing, bada boom, boom, boom. How you like that? Da 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 da. Now, look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. How you like that? Now, look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. How you like that? Just want you to call my phone right now. I just wanna hear your line. 'Cause I know what you like, boy. You're mine. Can't make you like, boy. 내 지난 날들은 눈 뜨면 있는 꿈. High boy 너만 원해. High boy 내가 전해. And we can go high. 어느 밤에 이렇게 봐. Take it to the sky. You know I have you, boy. 우리 가마. 어느 밤에 이렇게 봐. Take it to the sky. You know I have you, boy. Fragile, fragile, anti-T-T-T, fragile. Anti-T-T-T, fragile, fragile. Anti-fragile, anti-fragile. 어떤 것도 가줄게. 네가 바랬던 세계 제일 위에. 떨어져도 돼. Anti-fragile, anti-fragile. 난 지금 on my way. 걷어버리죠 너의 fairy tale. Now you know my name. Anti-fragile, anti-fragile. Anti-T-T-T, fragile, fragile. Anti-T-T-T, fragile. Anti-T-T-T, fragile, fragile. Anti-fragile, anti-fragile.
I'm on my way. Why do I keep getting attracted? 네 모습만 떠올라. I cannot explain this emotion. 1, 4, 3, I love you.
Why do I keep getting attracted? 자수같이 끌려가. I cannot explain this reaction. 이거 뭐?
I'm gonna let you know that I'm just gonna go and hold you so never letting go. I'm gonna let you know that I'm just gonna go. Yeah, 난 너에게로 지금 출발합니다. 바로 let go. Never letting go. Oh, I cannot explain this emotion. 1, 4, 3, I love you.
Thank you, dancers, for the wonderful performance. Back in December 2022, a few selected students from the UNIS MUN leadership team had the opportunity to visit the United Nations Diplomatic Academy Vietnam to engage in conversations around multilateral approaches and new solutions to ensure inclusive and sustainable development. At there, we were delighted to meet Ms. Pauline Tamesis. Originally from the Philippines, Ms. Tamesis was appointed by the current UN Secretary General as the new UN resident coordinator in Vietnam in June of 2022. Today, we have invited her to discuss the prevalence of power asymmetry in our modern society, as well as youth involvement in many areas. Please welcome Ms. Thomasis on stage.
Good afternoon, delegates. It's a privilege to deliver remarks at this UNIS MUN. Thank you, Ms. Annie Zhang, Secretary General, and Mr. David Lee, President of the General Assembly of the 2023 UNIS MUN. Maybe not many of you know what the job is of a UN resident coordinator. It's simply said, my job is to make sure that government, civil society, private sector, other partners, all of you, that we all help to contribute to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. The clock is ticking, however. We have less than 7 years to deliver an ambitious, transformative agenda. The urgency of the 2030 deadline is lost in a world that's struggling with very many crises. Pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the climate emergency. We need to rescue the SDGs. We cannot afford to be bystanders. We must take action as individuals, as communities, as societies. What can we do to bring balance to power asymmetries? Here is a provocation. Uphold human rights. How? We look no further than the set of common values agreed to by the international community in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. 75 years ago, the Human Rights Declaration enshrined the rights of all human beings. It fosters a sense of it fosters a sense of common humanity beyond individual differences. It has given rise to national, regional, and international laws and institutions to help realize all rights: economic, social, cultural, civil, and political. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development explicitly recognizes, one, that it is grounded in the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, and two, that it has to be implemented in a manner that realizes human rights. What does this mean in practice? I take the example of accountability for environmental harm. The right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment is generally understood to include the right to clean air, a safe and stable climate, access to safe water, access to adequate sanitation, healthy and sustainably produced food, non-toxic environments in which to live, work, study, and play, and healthy biodiversity and ecosystems. It also includes access to information, the right to participate in decision-making, and access to justice and effective remedies, including secure exercise of these rights, free from reprisals and retaliation. Realizing the right to a healthy environment requires international cooperation, solidarity, and equity in environmental action. States also have a legal obligation to prevent their actions from causing environmental harms around the world. According to the Human Rights Committee, the UN body that oversees states' compliance with the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, states that fail to protect individuals under their jurisdiction from the adverse effects of climate change may be violating their human rights under international law. In September 2022, the Human Rights Committee rendered decision against Australia following a complaint filed by 8 Indigenous Australian nationals and 6 of their children living in 4 small, low-lying islands in the Torres Strait region. For the past 2,000 years, these islands have been the home of indigenous peoples who had been living in harmony with the ocean. The complainants claimed that their rights had been violated as Australia failed to adapt to climate change by, among other measures, upgrading seawalls on the islands and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. They said changes in weather patterns have direct harmful consequences on their livelihood, their culture, their traditional way of life. Severe flooding caused by the tidal surge in recent years has destroyed ancestral burial sites, and heavy rainfall and storms have degraded the land and trees, reducing the amount of food available for traditional fishing and farming. Although this case was only the second environmental case brought under the individual complaints mechanism of the Human Rights Committee, it forms part of the growing number of national and international litigations that have been seeking to hold governments and business accountable for their climate inaction. According to the New York University's Climate Litigation Accelerator, some 200 cases are being adjudicated worldwide. The body of legal precedents developed in these cases, including with the respect to the right of healthy environment, will play an important role in future efforts to advance accountability for environmental harms. In the lead up to the COP27, the UN Climate Change Conference in Egypt, the UN Human Rights Chief, Volker Turk, warned world leaders that our right to life is being threatened by insufficient action in the face of climate emergency. He called for human rights to be at the heart of efforts to tackle climate change. I quote him, "First and foremost, states, but also civil society, communities, UN agencies, all of us, collectively have agency. We have one choice and one imperative, to act urgently with human rights as our compass. It will not be easy. Achieving real and meaningful change in people's lives never is. But we have the tools at our disposal. Human rights can trace our path and inform the decisions that need to be made." Distinguished delegates, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights calls upon everybody to stand up for human rights. We all have a role to play. We can support and learn from each other in our efforts to realize greater freedom and equality for all. Delegates, before I conclude my remarks, indulge me with a small exercise, and I will need help if we could turn the lights on in the hall. The reason being is I would like to present 4 choices. Please listen to 4 choices, to all the 4 choices first, before you react. I will repeat these choices, and I'd like you to stand up once you hear the statement that is closest to what you consider as true for yourself. Is that clear? But we need the lights on. Thank you. Yes, now I can see the audience. Okay, 4 statements. Choice 1. I feel passionate about the future. Sorry, wrong word. I feel pessimistic about my future, but do not believe I have the power to change my future. You're pessimistic, you don't have power. That's first choice. Second choice. I feel pessimistic about the future, but believe I have the power to change my future. You're pessimistic, but you can try. You believe you can. Not yet, don't stand yet. Choice 3. I feel optimistic about the future, but I don't believe I have the power to change my future. Choice 4. I feel optimistic about the future, and I believe I have the power to shape it. I have the power to change it. So 4 choices. I'll repeat them. After you hear your choice, could you stand up, just so I see the room, I see who believes in what. And then after, when I read the next choice, just sit down so that the next group can stand up. So choice 1, I feel pessimistic about the future and I have no power to change it. You're pessimistic and you don't have the power to change your future. Okay, thank you. Second statement, I feel pessimistic about the future, but I have the power to change that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Choice 3. I'm optimistic about the future, but I don't feel I have the power to change it. Thank you. Last one. I feel optimistic, but I also have the power to design the future that I want to see. Thank you, delegates. Thank you, delegates. This is very revealing to me. When I did this exercise with young people in Cambodia, where I was before coming to Vietnam, these young people were a group, they called themselves the Future Forum. All of them stood up to the choice about optimism and the power to shape their future. And that's what you call radical hope. Radical hope encourages us to engage in meaningful work and behavior, even if we are not sure what the future will hold for us. What I've seen here in this group is that you're pessimistic, but you know you can change it. And I think that is much better than radical hope, because there's a sense of realism. There's a sense of realism, and you know what you're up against. And you can prepare yourself for that change that you want to see. As model UN delegates, I think by making a choice, you have already shown what you're capable of doing and the courage that you need to make that future happen. Thank you very much for indulging me, and I hope you have very fruitful discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Paulin Tamasis. We truly appreciate the discussion and all of your responses. Through this engagement with a specialist, we are able to witness the power asymmetry specifically in the environmental facet of our status quo. To address our theme, what can we do to bring balance to the growing asymmetries of power? We would like to note that to meet a balance in power would be extremely difficult. However, we believe that if we begin taking action to make changes, we'll be able to balance out the asymmetric power dynamics and tackle various global issues.
For all delegates and chairs who will be undergoing 3 days of conference, with heated debates and numerous resolutions, we hope that you find your own answer to the theme and make it a lasting impact for you.
With that, we now officially gavel into our UNIS MUN 2023 March Conference. Clapping is in order. Thank you everyone for joining us for the opening ceremony, and please find your committee chairs and admins and go back to your committee rooms to continue your sessions. Once again,